everyone, let's get real for a second. When it comes to what men consider great sex, a lot of people think it's all about technique or trying to perform some impossible movie scene fantasy. But if you've ever loved a real man, a man with depth, a man with heart, you already know the truth. Great sex isn't about doing more, it's about being more connected. Today, I'm going to share 4 powerful secrets that unlock what men truly crave when it comes to intimacy. When it comes to what men consider great sex, emotional connection isn't just important, it's absolutely everything. It's the invisible thread that ties the physical act to something much deeper, much richer, and much more meaningful. For a man who truly values love, partnership, and real intimacy, physical pleasure without emotional connection feels empty. It's like eating a meal that looks amazing but has no flavor. It might fill him for a moment, but it doesn't nourish him. It doesn't satisfy that deeper hunger he has to be seen, known, and appreciated. Emotional connection changes the entire experience. It's the spark that turns chemistry into fireworks. When a man feels emotionally connected to a woman, he isn't just touching her body, he's touching her heart. He feels like he's being invited into a sacred space, a space where masks come off, where there's nothing to prove and everything to share. And inside that space, he feels safe enough to open up too. He's not just the strong provider, the achiever, the man with a plan. He gets to be vulnerable. He gets to be human. And there is nothing more freeing, nothing more intoxicating than being fully accepted in that vulnerable state. One of the greatest myths out there is that men only care about the physical side of intimacy. But the truth is, men long for emotional validation just as much as women do. They just aren't always taught how to ask for it. They crave to feel admired. They ache to know that their presence matters, that they are enough, just as they are. When a woman looks into his eyes with admiration, when she laughs at his jokes, when she thanks him for the little things he does, it creates a feeling in his heart that no physical act alone could ever duplicate. It's not about grand gestures. It's about small moments of real appreciation and connection that build into something extraordinary over time. In the space of emotional connection, sex becomes more than an exchange of pleasure. It becomes a dance of souls. A man becomes attuned not just to how his partner's body responds, but to how her heart feels. He pays attention to the little things, the way she breathes, the way she whispers his name, the way her body softens when she feels truly safe. And because he feels emotionally connected, he wants to please her even more. He's not just chasing his own satisfaction, he's completely invested in her experience too. That mutual generosity, that cycle of giving and receiving is what creates the kind of intimacy that people remember for a lifetime. When a woman lets herself be emotionally open with a man, when she shares her joy, her fears, her desires without judgment, it invites him to do the same. It creates a beautiful kind of vulnerability that is magnetic. She doesn't have to be perfect. She doesn't have to perform. Her authenticity is the most attractive thing she can offer. And when she meets his efforts with gratitude, when she recognizes his heart behind his actions, it magnifies everything they share together. It turns simple moments into sacred ones. Emotional connection makes great sex inevitable because it removes all the barriers. There's no insecurity, no second guessing, no wondering if you're enough. There's just presence. There's just trust. There's just the raw, beautiful experience of two people giving their whole selves to each other without fear, without hesitation. That's what men crave, even if they don't always have the words to say it. That's what makes a night unforgettable, not because of any specific move or technique, but because of how deeply both people felt seen, loved, and chosen. Of course, here's men crave to feel desired expanded to about 600 words written in the same warm, heartfelt, real tone without subheadings or a closing line. One of the most overlooked truths about men is how deeply they crave to feel desired. There's a common misconception floating around that men are always confident, always ready, always sure of themselves when it comes to intimacy. But beneath that surface, many men carry hidden doubts, quiet questions about whether they are truly wanted, truly appreciated, truly exciting to the woman they love. Feeling desired isn't just an ego boost for a man. It's an emotional need that runs deep, touching his core sense of worth and connection. When a man senses that his partner genuinely wants him, not just tolerates him, not just goes through the motions, but truly hungers for him, it unlocks a part of his soul that often stays guarded. It's not about constant grand declarations or choreographed passion. It's about the little signals that tell him without words that he is enough, that he is chosen, that he is magnetic in her eyes. A lingering glance, a playful touch, a whispered word of craving. These tiny moments carry an incredible amount of weight for a man who longs to be seen not just as a provider or protector, but as someone deeply, physically desired. When a woman initiates affection or intimacy, it sends a powerful message. It tells a man, I see you, I want you, you move me. For a lot of men, those moments of being pursued, even in small ways, mean more than they can ever express. It breaks through the cultural story that says men always have to be the ones chasing, always proving themselves. And it invites them into a new dynamic where desire flows both ways and where they can feel the incredible rush of being wanted without having to perform for it. Men are often carrying more pressure than they show. Pressure to perform, to satisfy, to lead, to be strong. When they feel desired, some of that pressure melts away. They can stop trying to do it right and start simply being present. They can lean into the experience knowing that who they are as they are is more than enough. It's not about having the perfect body or the most impressive moves. It's about the energy, the spark, the unmistakable feeling that the woman they care about genuinely enjoys them, craves them, delights in them. It's also important to understand that the way a woman expresses her desire doesn't have to be dramatic or scripted. It's often most powerful when it's real, when it's spontaneous. A woman's natural enthusiasm, her laughter, her eagerness, her pleasure, all these things create a feedback loop that fuels a man's passion. When he sees that he can bring her joy just by being himself, it feeds a deep place inside of him that no amount of external validation could ever touch. There's something transformational about a man realizing he is the object of his partner's passion. It makes him feel alive in a way that nothing else does. It energizes him not just in the bedroom, but everywhere else in life. A man who feels desired stands taller. He speaks with more confidence. He moves through the world with a quiet certainty that comes from knowing he is loved not just for what he does, but for who he is. That feeling, that deep inner knowing, doesn't just make great sex happen. It builds deeper trust. It builds loyalty. It makes him want to give even more, not out of an obligation, but out of a joyful overflow of love and connection. Feeling desired isn't a luxury for men. It's a powerful emotional need, a fuel source for their heart and their soul. And when a woman taps into that truth, when she shows him, not just tells him, but shows him how much she wants him, it changes everything. It deepens their intimacy, it strengthens their bond, and it turns the physical connection into something unforgettable, something lasting, something that feeds them both on every level. Would you like me to continue with the next one? Adventure and playfulness matter? We can keep the same emotional, flowing tone if you'd like. When it comes to creating unforgettable intimacy, adventure and playfulness are two of the most powerful ingredients. While emotional connection forms the foundation and feeling desired builds the fire, it's the spirit of adventure and playfulness that keeps things alive, fresh, and exciting. Men, much like women, are deeply drawn to energy that feels light, fun, and unpredictable. They love when being with someone feels less like a chore or a checklist and more like an ongoing discovery, a beautiful unfolding where both people can just be themselves without fear of judgment. Playfulness isn't about acting childish or silly just for the sake of it. It's about keeping the energy between two people full of possibility. It's about not taking everything so seriously that you lose the spark. A teasing glance across the room, a playful tug on his shirt as you pass him by, a sudden change of plans that turns an ordinary evening into something spontaneous. All these little moments tell a man that being with you is an adventure, and that is magnetic. It stirs something inside him that craves exploration, not just of the world, but of you, your mind, your heart, your body, your soul. Adventure and intimacy doesn't have to mean something elaborate or extreme. It's not about skydiving together or trying out 100 different techniques from a magazine. It's much simpler and much deeper than that. It's about the willingness to stay curious with each other. It's about trying new things, not because you're chasing perfection, but because you're chasing joy. It's the shared laughter when something awkward happens. It's the whispered, daring ideas that might be a little outside your comfort zone. It's the energy of two people choosing to explore, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually as well. Men find this spirit of playfulness incredibly attractive because it signals freedom. Freedom to make mistakes, freedom to be goofy, freedom to be human. So much of life demands that men stay in control, stay composed, stay responsible. But in the right relationship, the bedroom and every space you share becomes a playground, not a battlefield. A place where success isn't measured by performance, but by connection. A place where the journey matters just as much as the destination. A place where laughter and teasing are as erotic as touch and kiss. Playfulness builds anticipation and deepens chemistry. It creates inside jokes, shared memories, little sparks that linger long after the moment has passed. It's that smile he sees on your face that makes his heart race before he's even touched you. It's that unexpected moment where you grab his hand and pull him into the next room just because you can. It's the unpredictability that makes him wonder what's next and makes him want to find out over and over again. Adventure and playfulness also make vulnerability safer. When you can laugh with someone, when you can be silly without fear, you're building a trust that runs deeper than words. You're telling each other, we don't have to be perfect here, we just have to be us. That message is powerful. It makes intimacy richer, not because everything goes smoothly, but because you're willing to roll with whatever happens and find joy in the moment. Men don't remember every detail of a night spent with someone they love. They remember how they felt. They remember the freedom. They remember the spark. They remember the way she laughed and pulled them closer. They remember feeling young again, not in age, but in spirit. They remember that she made the ordinary feel extraordinary simply by being playful, by being open, by being willing to adventure together into something new and unknown. That feeling stays with them. It calls them back again and again into deeper intimacy, deeper loyalty, and deeper love. Of course, here's positive reinforcement ignites passion, expanded into about 600 words, keeping the same genuine, emotionally rich tone without subheadings or a final closing line. Positive reinforcement might seem like a simple concept, but when it comes to building passion and deepening intimacy, it's one of the most powerful forces there is. Men at their core are wired to want to win with the woman they love. They want to make her happy. They want to feel like her hero. They want to succeed in her eyes. When a man receives positive reinforcement, genuine appreciation, recognition, encouragement, it doesn't just make him feel good in the moment. It fuels his desire to give more, love deeper, and show up bigger. It ignites a cycle of passion that keeps growing stronger, not because he feels obligated, but because he feels inspired. In a world where men often feel pressure to perform, to prove themselves, and to meet endless expectations, the experience of being celebrated for who they are and what they do becomes incredibly rare and incredibly precious. A simple compliment, a sincere thank you, a touch of affection after a small act of thoughtfulness, these moments land deeply in a man's heart. They tell him that his efforts are seen, that they matter, and that he is succeeding at something that matters even more than career wins or public achievements. He is succeeding at loving the woman he cares about. Pellucid reinforcement doesn't mean false praise or exaggerated flattery. Men can spot that from a mile away. What they crave is authentic appreciation. When a woman notices the small things, when she says how good it feels when he holds her close, when she smiles at how he teases her in just the right way, when she expresses with real warmth how much she loves his attention, it builds a fire inside him. It tells him that his natural way of showing up is enough. And it motivates him to keep showing up with even more heart and even more passion. This kind of encouragement also creates safety. It makes a man feel like he doesn't have to be perfect to be loved. He doesn't have to have all the right moves or always know exactly what to do. Instead, he learns that the effort, the willingness, the presence is what matters most. And in that environment, he relaxes. He becomes more creative, more tuned in, more responsive. He becomes more playful and more daring because he knows that the woman he's with is for him, not against him. She's his ally, his encourager, not his critic or his judge. When positive reinforcement flows between two people, intimacy becomes a place of joy rather than pressure. It's not about ticking boxes or performing routines. It's about exploring each other, responding to each other, and celebrating the experience together. And because passion thrives on energy, on the exchange of excitement, admiration, and responsiveness, the more positivity you give, the more passion you receive. It becomes a beautiful upward spiral where both people feel more and more alive, more and more connected, and more willing to pour their full selves into each other. For a man, hearing that he's doing something right, seeing the impact he has, feeling that he is wanted and appreciated, transforms his experience of intimacy. It makes him bolder. It makes him attentive. It makes him eager to find even more ways to connect, to please, to surprise. And not because he feels he has to, but because he truly wants to. Passion that's fueled by fear or pressure quickly burns out. Passion that's fueled by encouragement and celebration burns brighter and stronger over time. Positive reinforcement isn't about manipulation or stroking his ego. It's about speaking into the best parts of him, calling forth his strength, his tenderness, his creativity. It's about co-creating an experience where both people are uplifted, energized, and deeply satisfied. And when a man feels that his presence, his touch, and his love are genuinely cherished, he gives himself more fully, more freely, and more passionately than ever before. Would you also like a full intro and outro if you plan to tie all 4 expanded sections into a complete keynote speech? It would sound incredible all stitched together when it comes to creating truly great intimacy. One of the most powerful truths is that presence matters far more than perfection. There's this idea floating around, fueled by movies, magazines, and unrealistic expectations that intimacy has to look a certain way, that there's some magical formula or flawless performance that makes it great. But real connection, the kind that leaves you both breathless and bonded, doesn't come from getting everything technically right. It comes from being fully there, fully open, fully engaged in the moment with each other. Presence is what creates safety. It's what builds trust. It's the feeling that your partner is not just physically close, but emotionally available, mentally focused, spiritually attuned. It's the sense that you are the only thing on his mind and he is the only thing on yours. In that space, walls fall down. Defenses melt away. You don't have to perform. You don't have to impress. You don't have to be anything other than exactly who you are. And that kind of freedom creates a level of passion and intimacy that no amount of technique could ever match. When a man feels that you are fully present with him, something extraordinary happens. He feels seen. He feels important. He feels like he matters, not because of what he's doing, but because of who he is. And when he feels that from you, he naturally wants to give you more. He wants to meet you where you are. He wants to explore more deeply. He wants to connect on every level. Presence invites. It's a magnetic exchange that deepens with every heartbeat, every touch, every breath. Perfection, on the other hand, often builds pressure. It shifts the focus away from connection and onto performance. It makes people self-conscious, worried about whether they're doing it right, whether they look right, whether they are right. And when the mind gets stuck in that loop of self-criticism and doubt, it disconnects from the body, from the heart, from the soul. Passion dies, not because the technique is wrong, but because the attention is somewhere else. Great intimacy isn't about executing a perfect script. It's about writing your own story together in real time, with all the beautiful messiness that real life brings. Presence allows for imperfection to not only be okay, but to become part of the magic. It's the laugh when you bump heads trying to kiss. It's the whispered, "I love you," in the middle of figuring things out. It's the shared breath when everything slows down and you realize that the best moments are the ones you didn't plan. Is the feeling that you are fully alive, fully feeling, fully loving, without a mask, without a filter, without any need to be anything other than your true, whole, beautiful self. And men are not looking for perfect women. They are looking for real connection. They are looking for that feeling of home, the experience of being accepted and celebrated just as they are. When a woman shows up with her whole heart, when she allows herself to be vulnerable, playful, tender, wild, whatever the moment calls for, she gives the man she's with the greatest gift possible. She gives him permission to do the same. She invites him into a dance where there are no wrong steps, only shared rhythms, shared discoveries, shared joy. The truth is, the mind will forget what the body looked like in the mirror that night. It will forget the exact moves or the sequence of events, but the heart will never forget the feeling of being fully present with someone. The heart remembers the way the room felt, electric with shared energy, the way time seemed to stand still, the way nothing else in the world mattered except this connection, this moment, this love. Presence creates the kind of intimacy that lingers long after the night is over, that echoes through every memory, that strengthens every bond. It's the soul recognizing itself in another and saying without words, "This is real. This is us." Would you like me to now help you organize everything into a full-flowing speech? If you're planning to deliver it or use it, we can structure it to sound powerful from start to finish.